Hey all, today I'm going to be telling you the 8 worst renovation mistakes that you could make. These mistakes could cost you thousands and thousands of pounds, but only at a fraction of that to the value of your property. Now interestingly, some of these renovation mistakes could actually help you succeed, but only in very specific circumstances, and I'll be sure to tell you about those as well. Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be on your way to becoming a property investing pro. Now if you enjoy this video, be sure to watch some of my others and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now let's get started. Now the first mistake that you can make is going way over the top with your renovations. And I'll tell you a little bit of a story about this one actually. For my very first renovation project, I costed my kitchen to somewhere between £4,000 and £5,000 per my budget. I was using 30mm quartz for the countertops, rigid cupboards for the cabinets, and some vinyl plank flooring. And actually my dad turned around and said that I had way under budgeted for my kitchen refurb, and that there was no way that I could refurbish a kitchen for less than £10,000 to £15,000. And actually the kitchen in their house had cost £80,000. Needless to say, I did actually complete the refurb for the £4,000 to £5,000 that I budgeted. And the reason I could do this is because I made cheaper choices. Now my dad is used to using 100 or 150mm Brazilian granite for his countertops, and he's used to using custom-made cabinets from high-end retailers and expensive porcelain tile all over the house, no wood or carpets anywhere. And most of the time this is a mistake because the return on investment just isn't worth it. A £4,000 to £5,000 kitchen could increase the value of your home by £15,000, £20,000, maybe a little bit more. But a £20,000, £25,000 kitchen might only increase the value of your house by £25,000 or £30,000 or a little bit more. And therefore for a whole lot more money, you're only making a little bit more of a return. Now this isn't always the case, because if you were renovating a multi-million-pound property in St George's Hill or Park Lane or somewhere like that, you wouldn't get away with just using 30mm quartz because no one would want to buy it. The people there will only buy something that has like big 100, 150mm granite on the countertops and the kitchen island as well. Now the second renovation mistake is doing the complete opposite and using the cheapest material wherever possible, like using thin laminate countertops or cheap labour or really crappy cheap tile adhesive and things like that. Now this is fairly self-explanatory, because if you're using cheap material and cheap labour, you're probably going to end up with cheap, crappy results. For example, if you use a cheap tile fitter, you're probably going to end up with a bunch of uneven and asymmetric tiles that don't really line up properly. And if you're using a cheap plasterer, you're probably going to end up with a bunch of little holes that they've missed out. And if you're using cheap tile adhesive, well, the tiles probably won't be on the wall for very long. Cheaping out on a refurb can seem like a great idea at the start because you're going to be saving loads of money. But it will probably end up costing you a whole lot more down the line when you have to completely redo your entire refurb. Therefore you can see that there's actually quite a small fine line between going overkill and cheaping out. And to make matters even worse, it also depends on where your property is, whether it's a small 1-bed property or a huge giant 7-bed mansion, and also what you plan on using the property for. For example, if it's a property flip, you probably want to use some more premium materials to get that premium sales price. But if it's a rental property, you might want to use something that's slightly lower quality but more durable to get a longer wear out of it as well. If you've enjoyed this video so far, be sure to let me know what you think the worst renovation mistakes possible really are. The next renovation mistake is not fixing something that looks a little sketch. Even if it's working now, that's no guarantee that it will work in the future. Therefore, if you see something that's a little bit dodgy and doesn't quite look right, it's best to fix it now instead of leaving it and trying to cover it up. Whether it's a bit of questionable home plumbing, or some ropey DIY wiring, or the ceiling starting to look a little bit mouldy, it's always best to investigate to see if there is a problem and how best you can fix it, rather than just ignoring it or trying to cover it up and hoping that it doesn't break. And the reason why is because if a prospective buyer can see some shoddy work, or even worse, can see that you've tried to cover up the shoddy work, they're likely to offer quite a bit less for your property. And the same thing works if you've got a tenant. If there is some shoddy work and it does break, you're going to have to repair it, and the tenant might also get injured, and that's never a good thing. And the fourth mistake is using carpet absolutely everywhere. I personally believe that carpet never ever has a place in the bathroom, no matter whether it's a rental property or a flip. because carpet in the bathroom is a nightmare to try and keep it from going musty and mouldy, because obviously the bathroom's wet all the time and it just doesn't look as good as some of the other alternatives like vinyl plank flooring or tiles. And it also just shows that you're trying to cheap out wherever possible. It's probably best to go slightly more expensive and use something like a vinyl plank or tiles, whether you half tile the bathroom or fully tile the bathroom, because it shows that you're spending that little bit extra and it's also going to be a whole lot more durable. Now, you don't have to go crazy and use some super expensive porcelain tile. Just some regular porcelain or ceramic tile from Tops Tiles or B&Q or something like that will do the job perfectly, and it also won't break the bank at the same time. And if you are using carpet in some of the more higher traffic areas like the bathroom or the kitchen or the lounge, then you're probably going to have to replace it every couple of years, or every tenant or every other tenant maybe. But obviously if you're using something more durable like a vinyl plank, you might not have to replace it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The next mistake is underestimating the costs, and I think everyone is guilty of this at least once, including myself, because in a way it's sort of impossible not to underestimate the costs for your first refurbishment. Now, I do really recommend that you try and plan your costs as much as possible. Maybe use an Excel spreadsheet and have each different tab for a separate room in the house, and try and list everything that you can think of that needs replacing or repairing. But I can almost guarantee that there'll be some small thing that you miss out, or maybe as you're doing some work you might uncover something else that needs repairing. But you should be able to be fairly accurate, and depending on how much you do under budget, it could have quite the impact. Therefore, when you've finished your budget, maybe chuck on 20 or 25% on the bottom just as a contingency, just in case some things do come up that you either forgot about or that you uncovered when you started working. Now, unfortunately, this isn't really a fix-all solution, because there could be some repairs that cost more than the 20 or 25% that you put down. But providing you've either had a survey, or maybe you took round a plumber or an electrician or a builder before you bought the property to kind of check it out to see if there's anything that definitely does need replacing, and giving you a fairly accurate cost, you should be fairly okay, and most things should be covered, and hopefully this 20 or 25% contingency should cover any issues. If you've made it this far into the video, maybe watch my other video on the 10 best DIY renovations, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The sixth mistake is not doing proper due diligence on your builders. So many people that need a builder will have a quick look at Checkatrade or Google and just go for the closest builder to them. Or maybe they'll get 1 or 2 quotes and just pick the cheapest. And unfortunately, this is the easiest way to end in an absolute disaster. With Checkatrade, you only need to pay a small fee to be registered as an approved builder. You don't even need any positive feedback, and therefore Checkatrade is no guarantee that that builder will be high quality or even turn up to do the work properly. Trustpilot is another potentially problematic website as well, because the builder can actually remove negative reviews about themselves. Therefore, you only get this gleaming picture of how amazing the builder is, but it's not really the true picture, because they could have just removed all the negative reviews and kept the only 2 positive reviews that they've ever had. Unfortunately, there's some real cowboy builders out there that might not do the work properly, might not come back and fix any issues or any holes that they've made, and they might not even come and do the work at all. They might start for a few days, do some work, get your first payment, and then go elsewhere to a different job, and they might never even return to finish yours. But obviously there are some absolutely brilliant builders out there as well, and what you need to do is to get loads and loads of recommendations to help you filter through these builders. Go on something like a local Facebook page and find someone asking for builder recommendations. Loads and loads and loads of people will be commenting on this post giving their recommendation, and find someone that's heavily recommended by people that aren't just the bloke's mum or his mate or his girlfriend. This is the best way to find a reliable builder, because obviously if someone's got 5 or 10 different people that aren't connected to them commenting on a Facebook post about how great they are, you can be fairly sure that they're not going to try and scam you and that they are actually going to do a decent job. The 7th mistake is doing too much yourself. Now, everyone loves a bit of DIY, and so do I, and there are things that you can absolutely do, like demolition or painting or laying really easy vinyl click flooring and some bits and pieces like that. But there are absolutely some things that you should probably leave to the professionals. If you need a professional qualification, maybe it's something to do with the electrics or the plumbing or the roof, you should probably pay someone appropriately qualified to do it, because then at least you can be fairly certain that it's not going to blow up any second now because it's some botched DIY job. And even though it'll be a little bit more expensive up front, it's likely to be a lot safer and probably won't break that fast in the future. Therefore, you'll probably save more money in the long run, as you won't have to replace it. And the last mistake is not going for what's in or trending right now. You might really like an orange wall in each room, or maybe it's an orange wall and one lime green wall and a pink wall, but most people probably won't like that. Therefore, when doing a renovation, it's always best to go with what the masses will like. A neutral colour scheme like greys or beiges will apply to most people, and that's probably what you want to do, because you don't want to try and limit your buyer pool to only the people that really love orange, green and pink. You want to try and appeal to as many people as possible and maximise your buyer pool, which will give you the best chance of getting your property bought or rented. Let me know down in the comments below what videos you want to see more of in the future. And as always guys, if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to watch some of my other ones. Alternatively, subscribe to the channel and ding the notification bell. That way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers.